So hi everyone. I'm Shane Prada. I'm the director here at the Baltimore Jewelry Center. We have a couple people online and about 16 people in person, which is lovely. Thank you all for coming out on a Saturday evening. And it's not, everybody has different places they could be tonight, so it's an honor that you came to hear from Sara, which doesn't surprise me. So I'm going to give a quick introduction, then turn it over to Sara. She'll do a presentation utilizing PowerPoint, and then afterwards we will take a little trip into the hallway and look at the work that she created. All right, so Sara Bautista is a Baltimore-based jewelry artist who has over 6 years of experience in the jewelry industry, designing and fabricating fine jewelry. We first came to know Sara when we hosted a panel discussion on grills in the fall of 2023. Sara, under her handle Peggy Portals, was one of our featured speakers. In the winter of this year, Sara applied to our residency program, and we were super excited by the prospect of her spending time making jewelry in our studio. We love to welcome artists who work across various jewelry disciplines, and we especially love when we can watch a fine jeweler utilize our studio. Sara sought out our residency to step away from designing engagement rings, which is her professional mainstay, and to pursue contemporary art jewelry. This sort of flexibility of approach and deftness of maker identity is exactly the kind of thing we want to foster and promote. Artists seeing themselves not only as fitting into one field, but rather as creators who can pursue a multitude of avenues in their creative life. From the day Sara arrived, she embodied this ethic, diving into applying her design thinking and cleverness to a variety of techniques in our studio. She also boldly took on the challenge of working with AI. While many creatives find much to be worried about as AI is utilized to generate art seemingly whole cloth, Sara's attitude was quite different. She wanted to see what she could do with AI, how she could work in collaboration with it to expand her artistic language and production. I found her approach incredibly refreshing, and I think you'll find it likewise as you hear from her tonight. We're really lucky that this summer Sara decided to relocate from her home in Brooklyn, which I know is hard for some of you who are here, but we feel very lucky that she decided to relocate from Brooklyn to become a Baltimore resident. So while she'll wrap up her residency next week, we doubt it's the last that we'll be seeing.
Okay, sweet. Hi, Alyssa. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm very excited. Oh, I need to do the presentation, don't I? Sorry. Okay. Oh, look. Okay. Thank you for joining me today. I am very excited to share my recent work. This project is titled Bound, and it is my exploration of what we consider valuable, permanent, and meaningful in jewelry and TBH in art as a whole. I've approached this project from a more conceptual perspective, which is in contrast to the more commercial design work I do on the daily basis. I cannot put into words how grateful I am to the BJC community for how welcoming and supportive you have all been and how much this work means to me, especially in regards to recent events. I do not take lightly how lucky I am to have this opportunity and how important it is to be critical and a maker of your own meaning in this country and in a world like ours. For my day job, I work with couples to design custom engagement rings, traditional symbols of commitment, and a promise of permanency. This project, however, is a step away from that everyday work, taking me into a more experimental territory where I could reimagine what it means to be bound to tradition, materials, and even the notion of preciousness. So with all that being said, I invite you now into the recesses of my squishy brain and my bloody heart. I hope you can forgive me for reading this entire presentation, but I think that this is the best way for me to do, like, really invite you into all of this. Yeah. Okay. So how did I get here? I did not go to school for jewelry. In fact, I did not go to school for art at all. I have a BA in American Studies, and my undergraduate thesis was titled Dystopian Paradise, Liberatory Futures for Colonized Past. But when I graduated without the bandwidth to immediately go into grad school and the full realization that I was really solely responsible for my own life sunk in, and that I had to not only get a job, but also ideally a career, I thought about what I've always loved and always done, and I've always loved and made jewelry. So when I graduated from undergrad in 2018, I went to work for a jewelry atelier in San Francisco, where I'm from. I feel like I have a lot of lore already in my 6 years in the jewelry industry, which includes designing a collection with De Beers diamonds and making grills for music videos. But today is not about that. Um, just know that my path in jewelry has been winding and is rather non-traditional. Jewelry has been the wind beneath my wings as I've gone from SF to LA to New York and now to Baltimore. I have mostly been a jewelry designer, but I'm excited that I can be at home here with you all and continue to hone my skills, since I have moved here with the intention of staying and growing in this community of makers that I respect so much. So thank you all again for being here. Um, so, okay. So the concept for Bound started with inexpensive engagement style costume jewelry sourced from eBay. Thank you, Zach, for reminding me how great eBay is. Cheap imposters of something that you might that you do expect to be valuable, like an engagement ring, you expect to be valuable. I wanted to transform or fuck up, as I probably told many of you, classic solitaire ring silhouettes with unconventional materials like twine, rubber bands, wax, electrical tape, etc. These aren't materials we normally associate with fine jewelry or maybe jewelry at all, and I was curious about how they might change or challenge our perception of value. So to me, this project examines the idea of being bound, not only in terms of attachment and permanence, but also in terms of being restricted by traditional ideas. It allowed me to question what it means to make jewelry that isn't just about a lasting commitment, but rather about transformation and the process itself. And with the rapidly increasing price of gold, helped me to question what type of jewelry I even want to be making in my practice. This is a really lame slideshow, so sorry. Um, so like I said, for my day job, which I love, I help couples bring to life their perfect engagement rings and wedding bands, helping them create symbols that represent stability, commitment, and lasting connection. This residency has provided a way to step back from those ideals and look at jewelry differently. I wanted to create something that could be flexible and impermanent, something that would evolve over time. Working with materials like twine and rubber bands, I explored how we can be bound to certain expectations and how breaking away from them can create something new and unexpected. It's almost like an anti-engagement ring, using materials that represent temporary bindings rather than forever symbols like diamonds and gold. Okay. One of the most impactful pieces of jewelry I remember as a teenager really resonating with is exemplified by these Elise Moran rings. While what I remember was actually something just from Etsy. During my career in the jewelry industry, I've been so lucky to work for jewelry stores selling compelling work such as Elise's. Something about an engagement ring silhouette made in solid metal has always deeply resonated with me, and I wanted to channel that energy in this project. So I started thinking about ways that I could achieve this type of feeling, but in my own way, in a way that I haven't seen anybody else do. So I decided that experimenting with these inexpensive eBay rings was the way to go. Like I said, I added electrical tape, rubber bands, and other temporary and functional items onto these classic ring silhouettes. I was drawn to materials that wouldn't typically be preserved forever. Bound became an exploration of what it means to create value outside of permanence, where the act of transformation itself holds meaning. I really love process and concept-driven art, if that isn't obvious. Each ring became a small rebellion against the idea that only what's precious and lasting is worthwhile, because let's be real, everything ends and everybody dies. Even the best of the best from antiquity preserved in museums around the world will one day be gone. And to me, that's a beautiful thing, the real tragedy and comedy of life and making. Um, and there's a cute little process video. It's like a reel made out of all the stuff from Instagram. Yeah, casting, pickling the original ring and the replication of it, the original ring and the replication of it. Yeah. The molds and stuff. Okay, I guess that's cool. Um, I experimented, and when I had a collection of Frankenstein rings that I was happy with, I started making molds. I cast them in bronze, silver, and my favorite design in gold. I started with 10 base rings in bronze. Then my 5 favorites of those were also cast in silver, and my favorite ring was cast in gold. The idea was to create a hierarchy of materials, but to invert the traditional pyramid of value by displaying them in an upside down triangle. The gold ring, usually seen as the pinnacle, is displayed at the bottom out there. This flipped hierarchy asks viewers to question whether gold is inherently the best or if value is really something we just described. And I think that it's both. It's a deliberate challenge to how we imagine worth and affirms that the idea of value is probably always more flexible than we think. And on top of all of this, I powder coated the rings to a clear satin finish. All the rings feel plastic because they are on the outside. The clear coat is like a thin protective boundary. It shields each piece without altering its core identity. In a sense, it represents the idea of preservation without concealment. By coating the rings, I'm able to bind them in a way that respects their original textures and imperfections, allowing viewers to see each ring's evolution and variance and is a reminder that nothing is perfect. And I also really love plastic. I am ready to attest this when my heart is weighed against a feather. I think there is a lot that coating these rings in plastic means: a veil of transparency, shielding the temporary, being bound by boundaries, embracing imperfection, a new kind of permanence, and really it just stops the bronze rings from turning your fingers green, which is what has always stopped me from wanting to work with bronze, because honestly, I only really like to design and make rings. But this new process, which I learned from Jay, thank you, Jay, has opened up a whole new world of possibilities. Again, especially with the rising price of gold. Maybe I will change how I approach material choices after this project. Uh, To further explore the theme of value and perception, each ring out there is displayed in its own 3D printed white box resembling an iPhone. Thank you, Zach. With a laser cut two-way mirror acrylic screen. Thank you, Diasi. The iPhone reference is obviously intentional. It is the modern frame through which we perceive and display everything from the happiest of news like wedding photos and birth announcements, projects and products, to the most tragic of truths, those being persecuted, those being murdered. The phone is almost like a pedestal in a museum to me too, something white meant to just blend into the background. The resin fingers inside remind you of my touch and the touch of like the artist, but also disappear behind the two-way mirror. The two-way mirror allows viewers to see themselves alongside the rings, focusing first on your face and then beyond your own reflection into the rings, literally creating a moment of self-reflection. It also obscures the rings. It makes it harder to see them. So how do we create and understand what is valuable in our world? What is worthy of our attention? Uh, oh, I was like not going along the slideshow. Sorry. Okay. I think a lot of artists have a lot to say about AI. Is it bad for art? It is bad for the environment. I think everything can be true at once, but right now it is a technology that is in all of our faces. I don't want to turn away from it. I personally really love novelty, and I am so grateful to be alive at this time to witness it. Something that perhaps represents the pinnacle of human technology, our ability to mimic our own minds and imaginations from an amalgamation of all pre-existing things, which is also how I feel about jewelry. The manipulation of earthly materials has always felt like an extractive communion with nature. During and after my initial play, I tried to reproduce my designs in Midjourney with prompts, and I couldn't really do it, which was what I made was outside of the references available to make it all to come together. It did something, but not quite what I was doing. So these were like my best attempts at like trying to get it to make what I was making. I hope my use of AI during this residency invites us to think about creativity itself. Is something less valuable if it isn't entirely human made? So much of the world is not human made. The little bird's nest and the river's dams. This project suggests that value and creativity are not fixed, and that by allowing AI into this process, I can embrace a future where value can be more inclusive, flexible, and unexpected. After all, everything is everything, nothing is original, nothing belongs to anyone solely, or at least that is the sentiment that I live by as an artist. Okay, so in reference to out there again, the rings are arranged in an upside down triangle. The 10 bronze rings are on top, and the 5 silver rings are in the middle, and the single gold ring is at the bottom. This is an obvious reversal of typical jewelry metals hierarchy. In engagement ring design, the whole point is to create the perfect ring. In my display, I hope the structure asks the viewer to consider whether the gold ring at the bottom is really the best inherently, or if that is simply an imposed idea, a matter of my own making. For me, this arrangement really emphasizes the question of value. What if worth doesn't follow traditional hierarchy? This display disrupted the conventional perception of value in a very literal way. I just want people to always remember that the way things are isn't the way that they have to be. We can always imagine new relationships, new modes of being, and new futures. In addition to casting the modified rings in metal, I preserved the original altered base rings by embedding them in clear resin balls, which are pinned to the wall around the display. These resin casts capture each ring's moment of completed transformation, freezing impermanent materials like twine and rubber bands in time. I love when precious things like a parent's wedding band is cast in resin after their death and worn by their child, a new life for something so important to somebody else. So to me, these resin balls act as memories of the ring's evolution. It captures the moment of binding without idealizing it. They represent a phase in each ring's journey rather than that perfect final form. In this way, Bound reflects on preservation as a process. I hope it invites you to see the beauty and impermanence and flux, because after all, change is the only constant in life. Okay. Bound literally invites reflection on how we perceive value, tradition, and creativity. At the end of the day, this is just a thing happening. It'll all be over. It's over right now. The display will be taken down. We'll move on from this work onto what I am already imagining as the continuation of it. The title Bound speaks to both attachment and limitation. We are bound to materials, concepts, and traditions, but we also always have the power to break free and reimagine and do things differently. So in closing, thank you all for taking your time to be here on Saturday with me and witness me play. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. I'm sorry that I read that, but I really could not do it without it. So thank you.
All right.
I think that will make it worse. You can try them.
You know, oh, it kind of
Does something.
I feel like I'm just showing the people on the screen, like my hands. Oh, again.
Yeah, you can like swipe up.
There we go.
Oh, tight in there, so they might fall off, but that's fine.
Cassins says, hi, Sarah.
Okay, no problem.
Oh,
I
awesome.
love how you do it.
Yeah, you seem like a cool boy. It's okay, Kate. If jewelry breaks, we've done something. Usually.
That's on me.
It's also just neat to have witnessed all the sort of iterations of this idea and see the final.
3D printing.
The gold one is crazy.
Alyssa says love the display.
Making the fingers.
Oh, you made the fingers too?
Sarah made it.
But it was 3D printed.
It was like a cast.
So just as a review, here are the
Oh, I see.
originals.
Yeah, next to the.
That
And
looks
these
so icy. Like the
cast.
paint. Yeah.
It looks like what is it called? Like old school events,
yeah,
carved ice.
like-
What's it called when like ice cream?
Yeah.
Carved ice.
And then
It's really okay. Don't worry. We're just our durability tester.
spear.
It's the original ring. I like made, and then I made one with those, and then I like cast them.
But what are these up at the top?
That's like the wax. It's like the whole process, like, cause I
Oh,
love
I
process.
do. I remember you said you were gonna, okay, I see that now.
Yeah,
You were
So-
gonna resin them and turn them into.
and then the first casting that we didn't get good pressure on the thingy, so they didn't come out.
I could not
Um,
tell that was a casting. So,
The
You really
casting
look at
tree and the clear one just looks
So,
so like.
yeah,
it's brilliant.
I saw, she showed me before.
Yeah, it
she
looks like kind
kinda-
of like alien
Yeah.
or like deep sea or something. Yeah.
It looked like it should be moving. That's
And
cool.
Alyssa has to leave, but she's saying thank you so much. Mary said, sorry she can't be here, but she loves everything about it, the concept and the execution, and the displays are exceptional, so original.
I did have a question.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as it pertains to like using the iPhone box as the packaging for your jewelry and then the jewelry itself, what does that, because then you talk about like AI.
Yeah.
So what is that connection between you now being a jeweler and a maker and technology? How are you seeing you utilizing the art? I knew you mentioned AI, but in other ways, because you're doing packaging and it's, I'm seeing this kind of constant theme of using technology to make your jewelry, but not it only what you're creating. You're still like using it as a form of experimentation.
Yeah, it's like until Daddy Elon puts the machine in our brain, like we're not actually the machine. So I don't know, like but we also have so much intimacy with phones. Like it's just I'm sure you can all relate how crazy it feels.
It's already in our brain.
It's already in our brain. Like how crazy it feels to be on Instagram and to see like photos from the wars, but then also see like your friend's wedding photos, but then also see an ad for a pair of shoes that you've Googled 3 times, and then see a dead baby again,
Yeah.
and then see an alive baby again, and just like what that does to our brains, and like, I don't know.
I get it. It's all about the physical of these subjects and what we think about. And I think when you talk about intimacy and phones, that's the connection you're making between your jewelry and then technology.
Yeah, because jewelry is so intimate. Like I literally also like can't think of anything that's like more intimate. Like it goes like your nose ring is inside your body.
Yeah.
Like inside of you. Like,
Yeah.
like
Well, and then like you said, you're kind of interceding in the
Right.
in the middle of a couple to like help them make their ring, which a lot of weird kind of like curious. Yeah.
It helps me to understand like how you think as an artist, which is dope because you put the gold ring at the bottom. Because we think, if you said gold is very expensive, but is it really valuable now? As it things how we think
It kind of sparkles.
yeah, it's shedding a little bit.
But that was not my question.
Thank you, too.
I feel like the way that you're engaging AI is the ways that like image sourcing for AI happens.
Yes.
And the way you're like kind of obscuring these final jewelry objects there's also this really interesting dialogue in this work about like security and access.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if that's something that you're like thinking about as you make this work.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that because so the whole AI thing came around because like for my day job, my boss like was trying to like we're working with like Midjourney to help doing like pre-actual CAD renderings for clients to like make visual representations of things that like the client can see and then be like, yeah, I like that direction, because it's awkward to show a client like a ring that maybe we didn't make, or like whatever it is, that having something that's like generated by us and is referential of our own work, because I'm like feeding our own past work into it to like make it mimic the background and stuff. And like, so I already had the like pro Midjourney subscription available to me, and I thought it would be interesting with this project to try to like recreate what I'm doing here, like in that same vein, but realizing that because this type of work isn't like available, it doesn't have anything to like draw on, like it's not like
It's
accessible. Yeah, like it's not like it like kind of confused it, and like the ones that I showed were like the best ones because some of them were like really crazy. Yeah, they were like exceptionally insane, and like yeah, I don't know, it's just, this is all just play, right? Like this is all just play, and I don't know, I got lost in your question, Jay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it seems like you answered.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Do you plan on like feeding images of these like final rings back into the program and seeing what comes of that with the new information?
I think that once I have really nice photos of these, I definitely want to. Like once I have like the white box photos, I would be very curious to see like what it feeds back. And then I think, so the like continuation of this project that I'm imagining is like actually doing like set center stones in these, but still having these kind of like wonky settings. And I think with the real center stones, it will be really interesting to see what it starts doing, because it has so many reference points for like, this is ring has stone, ring has prong, ring has shoulders, ring has shank, like, and then to, I don't know, yeah, it'll just be very interesting.
Cool.
I'm like getting a big like gumball machine. All the oars.
Yeah.
And you know, those are plastic too, and they have microplastics in them and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Is there any way to like ever get these out of the oars? Like, could you melt the resin away or drill it away and then wear the
cut into it?
the ring
I feel like you would have to cut into it, no? You would probably have to like.
and just put a circle all the way through it?
Oh, I see what you're saying, like it, like what words make it wearable with the orb?
Yeah, me and Mercury were talking about like strategies and stuff, like putting pinbacks on them. But I don't know, like to physically remove that. I don't think you can, like, because they're in plastic now.
How much would each of these cost on the gumball machine?
$20,000.
Anti-inflation.
On the slideshow?
Yeah, so there are a few rings that were kind of like sidebars in this project because I just like had these ideas in my head and I thought it would be like cute to do it or whatever. But so the chunky bands are done in the same process as this, like mixed up together and then molded. But then these are like fidget rings basically. So there's like a lab white sapphire inside that like moves in a straight line or moves in a circle. And that one's called spectrum and that one's called continuum. And to me, it's just like a circle and a square, the same thing from different perspectives. Yeah, yeah, spectrum, continuum, like the way that like we think of things as spectrums, but that can be limiting. And then like circles are very inclusive, but they like, I don't know, it's hard to sometimes maybe orient yourself on a circle, but like you look at a circle from the side, like it's line, and just thinking about perspective and the different ways that like you operate in the world. And then that being on top of like the amalgamation of everything that came before you, we stand on our ancestors' shoulders, like all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that these are kind of anti-engagement rings.
Yeah.
What would you feel about people using these as their actual set?
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. Look, I love engagement. Like, I love them. I love rings. I don't want to ever, I never make anything that's not rings. Like, I just love rings and I
I
love
don't think I
rings.
realized that. When you said
Yeah.
that, I was like,
I mean, I make grills, but that's like,
Yeah.
that's like for jewelry. Like, it's like rings or nothing for me. So. That would be dope. That'd be cool.
Divorce rings, maybe.
Yes, yeah. Divorce rings. Like, my husband.
Yeah, so this might just be more like me speaking like just observational, but I just think like your display in itself is very, it speaks a lot about you. I think it's just very you because like this is like jewelry is like such an antique and like it's a very like ancient kind of thing and like you said, one of the most intimate kind of things, and like the way you displayed this, it has like such this like futuristic-esque kind of look to it, and not like, I don't know, I feel like with the resin balls and like the kind of reflective iPhone mirrors, and they're all like very not like non-organic shapes. It just like, I don't know, it's very reflective of just like this interesting combination of like, you know, what was versus like, you know, this very like, I don't know, it's just so cyber-esque, and jewelry is such like it's
like
just
not so.
yeah, and then not only that, but the way you like took bronze, which is this ancient metal, and like covered it in plastic and covered it in resin, which is something that's so man-made, and then like the use of like AI to like inform your like pieces, I don't know, and then also like I think your statement about the phone screen and how like, I don't know, accessing these pieces through like a phone, and like the phone kind of like being a barrier to clearly seeing the pieces, but also allowing you to see them. I don't know. Stream of confidence.
Well, there's a whole lot here, right? Like, I
Yeah.
feel like you could just keep working on this for a while. I have a question on the chat. First, Eric Carnes says, "I'll see y'all. I see y'all. Excuse me. We're watching from the factory in Fremont."
He works at Tesla.
Oh.
The Tesla factory.
Cool. Margot says, "I'm curious about the life cast fingers and if they are a stand-in for the artist, and are the rings all your size?"
So the inside of all the boxes, there's like a cast of my finger nail, and then on like a clear dowel or dowel. Wait, what's the word?
No,
Dowel,
that's right.
and so that is my finger, and it's my pointer finger, which is like, you know, you swipe with your pointer thumb. It's like very like, you use this finger a lot. And the rings are primarily in my size because these will be available at holiday sale, like the non-powder coated version. And I like to selfishly make things for like me. If everyone hates them and no one wants them. So they're all at like more or less. But there's one that's a 7, which like is a little for me. Or maybe it's like a 6, 7, 5. I don't, but it's like a little bit. But it definitely is like a stand-in for my touch. Like you can like see my like wrinkly fingers and stuff in the cast, and like I think that, I don't know, like we're all ghosts, right? We're like all ghosts. I like that the fingers disappear too, like the rings are just like living in. I don't know if that answered Marco's question.
Thanks. Yeah, they also leave you wanting more, which is exactly what I feel like.
I will be here more.
Well, no, sorry, which is great. I meant more like get in it, which is very much, I think, the iPhone, you know, social media experience, right?
I
Like,
think you definitely there. Just being very interactive, and like social interactive, and continue to like engage us with asking questions about like society back
Mhm.
then. When it comes to like society and what everything's going on as much as art, and where does that like play now in everybody's life, right? So I love this.
And I just want to echo again one of the things I said in the intro, that like just the flexibility of thought of just like, I'm not just this, I'm this, and just how encouraging that is. Cause I think it's not just artists, I think it's very much the contemporary world we live in America, and specifically where we're like, or just thinking that we have to be a certain typology and that we're only that. And just having dexterity and kind of boldness in how we create is really inspiring.
I also think like you're really brave to interact with AI.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
No,
I
totally,
think
right.
We are so scared right
Yeah.
now, and I also live in Bay Area, and I know the talk around it, people are getting fired and replaced by AI. And I feel like this approach, that this is here, this would live. And
It's like
I'm
going
just
into the
back
dragon,
into it.
like,
And I'm saying, no, it's not good. As an artist, still more important and valid. Congratulations for that. Very great.
I think there's something really interesting that like AI can make a replica of a 2D object with like very little information.
Yeah.
And you have given the 3D building software so much information and it still can't do what you've done.
Yeah.
I think that's very special.
I think that speaks to like humanity too, like in like your mind, like AI can't ever create what's like uniquely made in like the human mind, even though we all have like, we've all probably like had the same idea before. Technology hasn't had those ideas before. They don't have like the information or like the human reference of like our own past and our own like research to be able to come up with some images like AI or technology will never be able to create. And I love that. I think that's a win for humanity. Like,
it's not gonna replace it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like validating the creative future and like how important creativity is. It's amazing,
Yes, Sarah, congratulations as your mother. I'm very
The creator of the creator.
Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. And yeah, the BJC is the absolute best. Thank you for being here.
Does anybody have any favorites? Like, is the gold one your favorite?
No, for me, the favorites are kind of coming from the form itself.
This one up here. I like the big stones with the prominent props.
Like that was my favorite. I like all of them.
Which one do you like?
Well, I'll
That's
just,
my favorite.
I'll encourage anyone who's local to come out and see it. Because you can't really get it.
Yeah, definitely. Because people want to touch.
You're really good on that.
Yes, get in there.
Yeah, you know.
I also like the idea that as more people touch it, more fingerprints will be on it.
Yeah,
and more marks of identity will be left on
True.
it.
Like
All the people that tried to access it.
Yeah. And then even the fact that, so like from a perspective point, you intentionally didn't add like it's a light box without the light.
Yes, literally.
Right, so you have to go and, swipe up.
Or get like real close to it.
It's like unlocking your screen, so I like that intention.
Bravo. Good job. Yeah, and if anyone's interested in our residency program, applications are live. They're due
February 1st.
Okay. And actually, Stevie walked away, but Stevie is a fellow resident, and then Varshali's here in a micro residency. So there's yeah. Yeah, we got some good, yeah. So check it out. And we are very much donor and grant supported. So if you feel so inclined, you can make a donation to us and support all of our wonderful work.
That's it, BaltimoreJewelryCenter.org/donate.
Bravo. Great job. Come out, see the work if you can. And yeah, thanks everyone.